A Cuban destroys the leftists who support the Cuban dictatorship, and you'll see, Cubans are fed up with these people.
To all those leftists around the world who say they support Cuba, listen carefully to this. You are not helping the Cuban people. You are supporting the dictatorship. They send leftovers, packages, handouts, and think they're doing something noble. But all of that ends up feeding the same system that oppresses my people. You're not motivated by love for Cuba. You're motivated by hatred for the United States.
That's very true. All these people who support the Cuban regime today are just against anything the United States does. It's that simple. That's their ideology, to be against anything Donald Trump or the United States of America does, for example. We've already seen what's happening with the situation in Iran. Well, these people are supporting the Iranian regime. The same people came out to support Nicolas Maduro. My God, it's just unbelievable.
And that doesn't help us. I am the Cuban people, my family is the Cuban people, and we tell them clearly we don't want to keep resisting, we don't want their hypocritical solidarity. It's very easy to watch us resist from the comfort of another country.
Of course, and especially if you don't really understand what's happening in Cuba, because that's what's going on. The vast majority of people just repeat, no, it's because of the blockade. What blockade? Cuba even had Airbnb, man. Did you know that? In Cuba, you could stay at an Airbnb. Imagine that. An American company, who would have thought, right? What?
That has a name, champagne communism. Don't send anything else because none of that ever reaches our people.
Of course, totally. Everything that's sent to Cuba doesn't reach the Cuban people. It goes to the Cuban regime. And many times what they do is keep what they can use, and what they can't, they sell.
Everything ends up reinforcing the power that's dragging us down. We don't want their interference. We don't want their show. We want freedom and their miserable shipments. They're not going to bring it to us.
I totally agree. And watch out, he's not the only one. Right now, we're going to see more Cubans who are very upset and angry with all these people. Like, for example, Greta Thunberg, who also came out to support Cuba. Greta Thunberg, who is supposedly an environmentalist who called for zero oil, well, she came out asking for oil for Cuba. Incredible. Imagine, now they're saying a Cuban destroys leftists who support the Cuban dictatorship. But he's not the only one, I'm telling you. Let's listen to this girl. Pay attention. She asks, which Cuba are you talking about?
Once again, a group of white Europeans is controlled by that savior complex and crosses the Atlantic in little boats or by plane to reach the island of Cuba and save it from danger. Many of them have gathered using the few megawatts Cuba has at the Convention Palace to say that Cuba is not alone, that they are there, and now, yes, now with them, Cuba is going to be rescued.
That's right, it's quite ironic because many communist influencers from around the world traveled to Cuba to say that Cuba is a wonderful country, that it is resisting, that it is fighting, and look, just look at this. Now, during a nationwide blackout, the hotel of Pablo Iglesias and the communist flotilla of very important person guests of the dictatorship is the only place in all of Cuba with electricity right now. Just imagine, it's simply ridiculous. I mean, these guys stayed in a luxury hotel. The whole country is without power except for them. What madness, guys, let's continue.
But come with me to watch this video, because if I saw it, you all are going to see it too.
Cuba is not alone. They shout for God. Cuba is not alone. And here is the criminal who oppresses the Cuban people.
Díaz-Canel.
Cuba
is not alone.
And you wonder, which Cuba are they talking about? Cuba
Obviously, of the Cuban regime, of the Cuba.
Of the 1,200 political prisoners that regime keeps locked up. Which Cuba are they talking about? Could it be the Cuba of the people who have been protesting for 2 weeks in different neighborhoods across the country?
God against the regime, huh? Against the Cuban regime, not against the United States. What Cubans are asking for is the fall of the regime.
Is it from Cuba, from the people who might go out to protest tonight? Well, no, it's not from any of those Cubas. They are talking about the Cuba of privilege, the Cuba to which they will have authorized access. That Cuba. Yes, the one that applauds everything the regime does and doesn't say anything. Then you have to put up with those people coming to explain your reality to you because you're poor, underdeveloped.
They always do the same thing, you see? They did it with the Iranians and the Venezuelans too. They would say, no, you don't understand the United States wants your oil and blah blah blah. I mean, always the same nonsense, always. Obviously, these are people who, if you ask them about Venezuela, they can't tell you who Tarek El Aissami is. They don't know anything about Venezuela. The only things they know are Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela, oil, Caracas, Hugo Chavez, nothing else. It's incredible. But even so, they say they understand what Venezuelans, Iranians, and Cubans are going through.
Don't you know what you're living through? Do they care about us Cubans? Of course they don't care about us.
They only care about their decadent political ideology.
The only reason those people are putting on that whole show is because now the United States is putting pressure on Cuba. Otherwise, they wouldn't have cared.
Of course, because they haven't cared for years. Look, now many of them are furious about what's happening in Iran, but let's be honest, the Iranian people were oppressed for almost 50 years and they didn't care at all. Did they talk about what happened during the protests in January, where 30 or 40,000 people lost their lives? No, not a single word.
Because we Cubans have been in crisis at least since 2019.
At least since 2019? Please, they've been in crisis for almost 70 years.
Don't you realize that they want to turn our executioners into their victim, into the victim of the United States, which of course they want to save? Is a circus really a circus?
Okay, now please, let's listen to this Cuban.
The United States wants to take over Cuba's resources. The great American empire wants to steal every last resource from our island. At least that's what the dictator Miguel Diaz-Canel says. Now I wonder, what resource are you talking about? If people don't even have drinking water, what resources are there to steal? The United States? The sugar that you made sure to eliminate, or the agricultural products that only tourists get to enjoy? Because when was the last time my family saw an avocado, a mango, a pineapple, an orange, a fucking mango? You made sure to steal everything to sell it to foreigners in the hotels. Meanwhile, Cubans have to watch through a window, mouths open, going hungry. What resource is the United States planning to steal in Cuba? The fish that you don't let people catch, or the lobsters that only you get to eat, or maybe it's the tobacco that you make millions of dollars from while paying the producers just enough for food. Or maybe the United States could steal the coffee that Cubans can't even taste. I want to know what the resources are. The rice that you force the farmers to plant and then let the harvest rot. Because you just don't feel like paying those very farmers. What resource are you talking about? Or maybe you're talking about the censored internet that you sell at an inflated price to every Cuban? Or maybe you're referring to the rejection of the human resource that you've been exploiting like slaves for more than 60 years? That's the resource you're afraid the United States will steal. In Cuba, there's nothing left to steal because you, the communists, made sure to steal everything. You drained every fruit, every product, every hope, every dream from the island. What you need to do is pack your bags and leave. And that's the easy way, because the hard way won't be so nice. How much I wish all these communists would just get the hell out. Like I always tell you, this is my opinion, even if I get worked up. Let me know what you think here in the comments.
I think we all feel exactly the same way. The regime needs to fall, and it needs to happen now. But guys, what do you all think about all this? Cubans are obviously upset. They're angry with all these progressive communists who came out to defend the regime. It's just unbelievable. It can't be possible. And let's hope that Cubans keep raising their voices and keep humiliating these people. Guys, see you next time.